He's already pressed start.
We've pressed record.
And I'm not even ready.
How ready can you be to talk?
2 coffees and nowhere to play. That's how ready I am.
Yeah, that's how Keelan's feeling. I'm feeling the exact opposite of I've had a coffee and I'm just slumping. But anyway, positivity and all of that. Welcome back to the Motus Prodcast.
Yes.
Thank you once again for all the support and everything. Fucking, why am I saying so much? That's a positive.
It's because you're dying. You're literally dying
My
right now.
body's just crumbling.
I'm
What I was
upset.
going to say is we're recording this actually only a few days after recording the last one, just because Keelan's round at my office and we figured we'd knock this one out.
So we haven't had any responses from the last podcast, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. I mean, people might have hated it. No, what I was going to say is if something drastic has happened, like Obama's fucked David Bell or whatever I said last week.
Had a haircut.
Who had a haircut?
You said, oh no, fucked a barber. That's what you said.
Did I? I thought I said David Bell.
David Bell fucked a barber.
No, I said Obama.
Oh, I thought you said a barber.
No,
That's
Obama.
why I laughed.
So if David Bell fucking Obama isn't funny?
No, but you said a barber. I was like, what's so bad about that?
No, Obama.
Right.
If something huge has happened in the world or in the parkour community, we're obviously not going to be talking about it because unfortunately we can't see the future. If we could, I would not be here. I'd be fucking wealthy and playing the lottery, stuff like that.
Yes.
What has happened in the last couple of days?
I feel like we were talking about something that did happen.
I mean, it's written right in front of you on our show notes.
Oh,
that was more of a prompt.
Well, I don't know if people have noticed about the latest.
No, I don't think people eagerly scroll through our YouTube videos that much.
No, basically, one of our recent-ish videos of Mark's, just an Instagram compilation, has. Wait, have we even checked it? Do you want to quickly check it out?
Oh, it's
now?
like 160,
it's gonna
170k.
It's probably
views.
going to hit 200k soon.
Yeah, basically, on April 1st, somebody as a joke wrote an April Fool's saying that I think like some old communist leader's great-great-great-granddaughter was like pissed off at Jim Carrey and like wrote some stuff to him or something, which got a bit of press. Somebody said, and I guess they somehow found Marx's video. They went, well, Jim Carrey's. While this guy's sort of great-great-great-granddaughter is pissed off at Jim Carrey, Karl Marx's grandson or great-grandson is doing parkour, and then linked to this video. And this thing then got shared, ended up on Reddit and a load of other stuff as far as I'm aware. And this video is just suddenly being exploded.
It's crazy.
Much to Marx's delight. He's been checking it and he's like, oh, I'm the 3rd most viewed on the Motus YouTube, now a 2nd. And now he's
going to take over Resurgence.
If he tops Resurgence, I'll be a bit like...
But I mean, it was Soul Destroyer.
Yeah, very true.
Please watch.
Please watch it.
But Unilad has shared it as well, which is interesting that they've actually used a title that's not slagging parkour off or making it sound like a dead meme.
Obviously.
Or is it? No, it's like it's the same title that Marx gave it.
Yeah.
14 years.
14 years.
Which is good. I like that Unilad did that. Apart from it came with a load of negative comments and people who are just dumb and pretty much sit in their bedrooms all day wanking and looking at Facebook videos.
Don't we all?
Yep.
Yeah,
that's our life.
But I don't know. I'm over dumb comments. Like people either like it or they don't. It's the ones that call parkour a fad. They're like, oh, it died out in the early 2000s. I'm like, no, it fucking didn't. Like, I think mainly because if it had and actually I was clinging onto it, it would be a bit sad. I've been doing this for over 15 years, and they're like, you're still going. You still like you meet that guy from school, and you're like, you're still doing that. That's me with parkour.
Has Mark's been doing it for 1 year less than you?
Apparently so. Yeah, apparently so. I sort of didn't know that, but we'll question the legitimacy of it.
I still don't know how long I've been doing it for, because parkour
or wanking and watching Facebook videos?
Wanking and watching Facebook videos.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even. No, but I feel like I've been doing it near. This actually sounds scary. I feel like I've been doing it near to like 8 years.
Well, you had. When did you start? I met you when you were what, 12?
Yeah, but I'd already been doing it for like 2 years before that.
And you're 19.
Yeah.
Oh fucking! What alarm is this? Keelan has about 30. What was it?
I don't want to know.
What, post on Instagram?
No, have a wank and watch Facebook videos.
Oh, that alarm.
No,
it
was post.
Keelan has multiple alarms set on his phone to keep him on time. It's like, go to the toilet, drink some water.
Do not.
Wash your hair. Had you actually been doing parkour for 2 years before I met you?
Well, not just. This is the hard thing because I wasn't because.
Well, you were
I was doing flips.
Yeah.
Watching like a few videos of people who were like Danish and they just did flips into sand. and it had parkour and free running in it.
Yeah.
And then I stumbled across Tim Sheaf.
That was the one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Didn't really watch him do jumps though, like
because Kelan was basically ex breakdance, and then it kind of is a similar vein to Tim actually, in the sense that you like.
I think that's why
you were already physically very able and did flips, and then you were like, oh, I'm gonna transition.
I mean, you were the one who was like, do a standing free or something. I don't know how it came across, but yeah. So like, I'd say actual parkour since I was 12. But...
Tiny kid in the gym was bent in knees, and I was like, can you even do a precision? And you were like, no, I like doing flips.
But altogether, since I reckon I was 10 years old,
well, actually, yeah,
which makes it nine years of actually knowing about it and consciously being like, I'm kind of taking part in this.
Yeah. I've been with Sarah close to 7 years now, and I obviously met you way back at the start when we were going to that gym. So that, you're must be up there.
Jesus.
Anyway,
that was a
little tangent, little load of waffle. Oh God, I'm scared to get into this topic.
This is one that I'm sorry, I'm not very knowledgeable about this one, but
well, I think you'll probably have more input than you think.
As I'm starting to work more and more towards the brand, I feel like you're teaching me stuff along the way. So
I'm scared because I think it could be a long one, and I'm just feeling fucked. I've had one of those days, and this is where
one of those days,
and this will. Limp Bizkit, classic. Yeah. I mean, this probably comes down to it in stuff I'll talk about later regarding sort of, happiness. But I don't feel like I've had a very productive day, and it seems to have quite an effect on how I feel about my life.
He's probably been more productive than all of you, but...
No. Really not.
I mean, no, you've drew some things.
Did some attempts at designing.
Drawing of some nice little faces.
Yeah. Not faces, but smiley faces.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be covering, and I honestly feel like this could... It seems like it would be weird to condense this into one episode, so I think there might be elements of this that we could expand upon later on the line. But I think since we started the podcast, the most requested thing, other than sort of, can you get George or Callum or Dom on or something like this, is... can you give some advice on starting a brand or starting a clothing company? Or it's a bit broad because a brand could be many things. A clothing company is obviously a clothing company. Like a lot of what we're going to be talking about is fairly... It's not specific to parkour, but my experience has only been learnt through doing this through parkour. So there might be avenues and stuff and other ways of doing things that are completely different or more effective if you're kind of just like, I'm going to make a clothing brand in the streetwear market or the skate market or something. But this is going to be a waffly episode of trial and error over the last however many years.
I mean, it takes a long time. As everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, lucky enough, I've been there from the start, so...
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things that people think it takes a long time, and you say, cause I mean, one of my points that I'm going to talk about is be patient, but it's like, I think you don't realise how patient you have to be, because it is not some overnight success thing.
Exactly, but it never should be. Even if you are an overnight success... then it shouldn't be the point where you're like, yes, I've made it, I can sit back. It should be like, now I'm going to fucking work my arse off so it can become double that.
When it comes down to... Because what we're going to talk about right here is this is not like how to sort of... Because, you could talk about overnight success in terms of, I blew up like Harry Nightscape and you got hundreds of thousands of subscribers overnight. That's great. His audience has exploded, but has his business side of things, i.e., how he produces clothing, how he sells clothing, how he restocks, has the back end, has all of that scaled at the same proportion? Because suddenly, if Motus, if Kanye West wore a Motus t-shirt tomorrow, we would sell out of everything immediately. Because that seems to be the kind of the Kanye West effect. That would not necessarily... It would be great, but also unless we had shit in the pipeline to very, very quickly back that up, the hype would... if we sold out and then we couldn't restock and we didn't have any new shit coming for a few months, everyone would forget. It would float away.
That means you just got to be ready all the time.
So, but...
not like ready.
Not like ready.
But you just got to make sure that you're always on top of,
I think
what you're bringing out, I guess. Makes sense.
I think realistically, because stuff like that is not... I don't know if it's 1 in a million, I don't know if it's 1 in a billion, I don't know if it's 1 in 1,000. Stuff like that is so irregular that you shouldn't... It's chance. What you should be planning to do when you build your brand or your business is you should be aiming to scale consistently and obviously at a good rate. But there are things it all takes time, and everything. You have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to change. Like I don't know, like your postage system, how you fulfill orders, who fulfills your orders. Like there's all these things that will change and scale as time goes on, and yeah, there is so much to talk about. So the first thing I want to say is the amount of people in the community in parkour who want and I'm not going to say team here, because I think wanting a parkour team with your friends is very different to wanting to turn that into a brand and make clothing off of it. The amount of people who see a path as like, get a team, get a few hundred subscribers on YouTube, sell some t-shirts, make millions. It's like, whoa. Like, where's all this? I think you have to ask yourself, and I mean, people, I would like to think sort of Motus is within this to a degree as well, have proved this is a sort of a possibility, like it can happen.
Yes.
But it's not for everyone, and if it's not your passion, then don't
force it to be your passion.
Exactly. Yeah. There are some people in this world who are just simply not. They don't want to run a business. They want to be an athlete, or they want to be a single filmmaker. Like running a proper business to scale is so different.
The amount of people you have to rely on, and that's not always going to be.
It's
not always going to be perfect.
It's people, it's work ethic, it's time management. There's a lot of,
because you could be perfect, the leader of the brand, but like if no one's working together, then like it's just not going to happen.
Well, and also, I mean, let's say you're in a position that like I was in at the start, where I was kind of a solo entity. Is like, and what I've learned along the way is you have to be prepared to delegate. You have to be prepared to change. You have to be prepared to accept sort of changes, feedback and things, and also you can't always expect 100%. You can't expect a 10. Like for me, like I will have an edit, or I'll have a piece of clothing, or I'll have something in mind, and to me, because that's my opinion and it's my little echo chamber in my head, that's a 10. But if I say, Kelan, can you go and make this edit, he might give his 10, but his 10 might be my 7. This I'm quoting some podcast I listened to a while ago regarding this exact kind of number thing of 10s and 7s and stuff, but it's very, very true. Like I can't expect Kelan to know exactly what I want. Sometimes he might do something and it might fucking excel what I was even thinking, and that's amazing, but it doesn't happen all the time. And also, if I'm going to delegate an edit to Kelan for him to do, I have to be accepting that it might not match the standard, but it has freed up my time to do something else,
and then something is there.
Exactly. Then it's additional. Like it's better than nothing. Exactly, so whereas if I wasn't but I mean we're running way ahead at the moment, because the main my main question is like, why do you want to start a brand like that, or a clothing company or whatever? Like there has to be a genuine reason, and you need to be passionate about that through and through, and you can't be in it just for the money. Like it can't be like, oh, I want to make t-shirts and make money, because that is so shallow that you won't get anything out of it. You won't have anything to put into it, and it won't go much further.
But that's quite given with anything. If you're in it for the money, it's most probably not going to work.
Yeah, it's there's not that kind of longevity in it, because something will burn out, whether it's your passion or whatever.
Because you're not in it for the passion, you're in it for what's about to happen, and once that happens, then you're going to be stuck. Yeah,
and I mean, funnily enough, like what I have learned over the years is I'm actually really bad about being in things for the money. Like I loved filmmaking, and I still do, because I wanted to be so associated to parkour, but I also wasn't good enough as an athlete. So I was like, cool, well, I have to be attached to this sport. Like for me, my driving force is parkour. And I was saying this to somebody the other day, like at the end of the day, the only thing I care about is my impact on parkour and like what I can do within this space. And so when I was a filmmaker, I was terrible at selling my own self in terms of being a filmmaker, because I was really bad at saying I'm worth this. Slightly easier with a brand, because there's kind of a level of maths that goes into pricing clothing, like your margins and everything. Like you work this stuff out, and it's easier for me to be like, I'm proud of this t-shirt, like can you buy this please, rather than like, I'm proud of me, can you give me money?
Yeah, because it also sounds a bit weird, I guess, for yourself.
Exactly. If I was
to say like, I'm great, look at me, like.
But you have to. I mean, if
I
you
know
want to,
you do have to do that, but it's not nice.
For any athletes out there, like that's what you have to do. You have to. And I remember speaking to Jason and Emily years ago. I was in fucking Atlanta or something in a restaurant. It was on Off the Edge. I just remember this conversation really like distinctly, because they were like, you should double the rate you're charging to be a filmmaker.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I can't. And they were like, no, you need to be setting higher things because you need to be earning more and you need to be showing to the clients that you sort of value yourself. And I was like, yeah, but I don't value myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the same with Motus. Like, I'm not in Motus to make money, and I'm fucking barely making any money now. I'll tell you that for free. Like, and that's the harsh reality of it. Like, the brand's been going for years. It's undeniably kind of one of the bigger ones in the community, and the brand makes fucking a lot of money, but I don't get paid a huge amount because I'm trying to put everything I can back into the brand and maximize the potential to be able to sort of split money between athletes and travel. I mean, yeah, there's so many different things that the money has to go to. So, and this is the fucking mistake you see is you see people making these brands, they sell a few t-shirts or whatever, and then they spaff the money on something. They're like, cool, we sold 100 t-shirts, let's go on a trip.
This might be one of the most important things, to be honest, when it comes to a brand, because you can literally, you can stop the brand from being a thing. Do you know what I mean?
Very quickly.
Exactly.
And I've made that mistake back in the past. Like, the amount of money I was sort of putting in personally at the very start was, I put in a lot, and then I definitely sort of, and this is the type of thing, you can't learn this stuff overnight. Like, you will spend money in the wrong places at the wrong times. Like, there's so much. So, I mean, I think this is going to be one of these conversations where we jump ahead and back and everything, because we're now kind of jumping ahead to like, oh shit, you've made 100 t-shirts or whatever, but we'll scale it back a bit. But to put it simply, don't go into this for the money. Why are you even doing it in the first place? Like, you have to feel strongly about this. You have to want to be in it for the business side of things as well. Like, and if there's 4 of you or whatever in your little team and you want to start a brand and none of you is prepared to sort of take on some form of like businessy financial role and things, and these tasks in the early days will be minor things, but just keeping an eye on things as things scale. If no one's prepared to do that, then you're going to fail. Like, someone has to learn along the way, because if you can't just be like, oh, we all just want to like train and fuck about and like sell some t-shirts and make some money. It's like, well, who's reordering stock, who's thinking about this, like who's designing, etc. Like, you gotta, so if you're working with multiple people, rather than like, if it's one of you, learn that you can't do everything, or if you learn that you can't do everything at once, so work on the things that are important and sort of, you've got to structure your time and stuff like this. If there's multiple people, you've got to delegate to each other and have an understanding of who is taking care of what at each time. Ideally try and make sure that those roles are spread evenly. And yeah, like it's like, what are your strengths? Like, my strengths my strengths are sort of I'm not a designer. I have ideas. I have fucking shitloads of ideas. Some of them I'm really proud of, and I push forward, and I'm like, cool, let's go with this. And then I get people who are better designers than me, and I pay them money to help me with the design. I'm better at the video side of things. I'm okay at marketing. I'm pretty shit at financials, and now I pay a bookkeeper and an accountant, and there's all of these things that once the business scales, you can get to this. Like,
and you'll learn these things. It's not like, do you know what I mean? You don't have to figure this out straight away. I mean, it's good to get a head start and be like, okay, what am I good at? You definitely should be doing that. Well, but there'll be things that pop up, like you might have a thing, like Giles was saying, you might have a thing for numbers, and you'd be like, oh shit, like this is really useful. I'm good at this.
Like, having someone I wrote this down later on in my list, but if you are young, or even if you're not young, fucking learn to understand numbers and business and research the business side of things. Like, this is what pisses me off about school, is I went to a school where they're still teaching kind of religious education and extra maths and all this bullshit, and I'm like, why were we never taught about taxes? And you hear this a lot. Like, I mean, I left school with an absolute zero knowledge of like how to do taxes, even how to run a business, how to set up
buy a house.
Yeah, margins, mortgages, whatever. Like, Jesus Christ. So, and I went into Motus. I went into being a sort of freelance filmmaker, but I wasn't even freelance because I actually set up as a company, and I had no clue about sort of the financials, money management, like your profit and loss, and then building that over into Motus, like margins on clothing. Like, I was just going, cool, t-shirt costs £8 to make, times that by 3, whatever, like that. And then it wasn't until sort of, I mean, a long time ago now, but like there was a period where I suddenly realized, like, oh, fuck off emails. yeah, there's a period where I was like, oh shit, like I need to actually learn how to do this thing properly, because unless you've got correct margins on your clothing, like you're not going to make enough money off of your £8 t-shirt to actually be able to pay for the things that you want to do. And that's not for you to go on holiday. I mean, for you, for growth within the business, so that you can actually afford to restock and everything. So why do you want it? Don't be in it for the money. Be patient and put some fucking serious time, or find someone who is keen to learn the business side of things. Like, that is so important, because you've got to treat this like a business. And all of these things will grow and develop. You don't have to be perfect from day one. You don't have to have everything mapped out, but you have to be prepared to do these things. And the same can be said for kind of a business plan and things like that. Like, you meet some people who are well into their business and they're like, hey, what's your business plan? What's your 3-year and 5-year plan and things? All these things will develop and change as time goes on, but you need to be aware that you should always kind of be formulating them.
Yeah, I agree.
And so, I mean, but yeah, so I mean, let's say you're happy to do this. You've got your mates, you've had the chat, you're like, hey, let's do this. You're probably thinking, cool, what are we going to call it? And that's the obvious thing, is like, oh, what's the name? Yeah. And you're like, cool, well...
But I think this bit is actually way more important than people think. It's not just like, that'll work, like, do you know what I mean? I kind of like the sound of it.
Well, I think the name...
You've got to think about being unique at the same time without, like, do you know what I mean? You don't want to be ripping people off so it sounds similar to other companies.
Yeah.
Because people are going to get confused and you're not going to get out there. Also, you don't want to choose something... This is a hard one. You don't want to choose something that in, like, 3 years' time you're like, oh, that is a weird name. Like, I think I was just too young when I met you.
Yeah, like when you're 15, you're like, we're the Street Parrots. And then you get to like
the Street
20 and you're like, fuck. And you've
I know what you mean, yeah.
That being said, I think if you build enough audience and like...
You could pull that off, for sure.
If you build the right fan base, you could... If people are like, fuck it, I love the Street Parrots. Like,
yeah.
You could pull it off. So don't... But I think it's worth, like, if you come up with a name, whether it's one person or 4 people or whatever, like, run it past numerous people of different ages. Like, also Google it, check it that it's not already a company. Like, make sure it's not a fucking... Because otherwise you're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're like, oh, fuck, I don't know, like Common Projects. Like, that's already a brand. Common Projects is a brand. Yeah. So just Google what your shit is. If somebody's already making money off of it, they're not going to let you make something off of it.
But also, because you could continue being a brand for, like, let's say, a year. Could you do this? Could you be like, you're selling clothes for about a year, 2 years, and then Common Projects finds out,
then you start to trademark
down.
Not
shut you down, but like, what if they? How's it happen? Do you owe them money because you're using their name?
No. Unless you're literally plagiarizing like everything that they do, then they would probably have a case of being like, you've made money pretending to be us. Mm-hmm. But if you just like, if you went to apply your trademarks and things, apply for trademarks, they'd be like, hey, hold the fuck, like, we're called this as well, and then you'd be like, oh shit, and then you don't have a choice.
Just don't go there.
So really, really think about your name, but also what does your name stand for? And your brand can adapt. Like, what your brand wants to do can adapt, but you're gonna find it much easier to build a solid foundation on something that has a much sort of deeper meaning. And that the deeper choking, sorry, emotional. The deeper meaning doesn't have to be obvious. Like, I don't know, like if I don't know, you're making a brand about sort of the mix of parkour and Japanese culture.
Okay.
You don't have to be like sort of parkour Jap culture something. Like, it's not like the person read like what's Adidas about? What's Nike about? Like, exactly. Nike or whatever.
There is. I had never looked it up and I never thought about that. But like, I'm sure there is. I'm sure it.
Storm. Like, if you, Storm has Storm Free Run. But if you just said, oh, like there's this brand, it's called Stora, people would be like, well, what's that? Yeah. You the name doesn't have to do that, but what you want is, and once again, this will develop and grow. But you want, what's your USP? What's your message? What are you trying to do with the brand? Because when somebody says, like, it's you're talking to your granddad at Christmas lunch, and he's like, what's that thing you're wearing? Or what are you doing at the moment? And you're like, oh, I'm doing the Street Parrots. They're like, well, what the fuck's that about? And you're like, oh, I like parkour. And they're like, and?
Yeah.
So you want to really get a knowledge. You want to get a really good idea of what you want to do, and you want to be. You don't. It's another thing. You don't want to feel like that's lame in a few years' time.
Yeah.
It can adjust. It can change. Like you can completely flip kind of the direction of things. But if you've already built an audience of 10, hundreds of thousands of people or whatever, and then you're like, oh no, we're about flowers now. You're like, whoa.
Yeah,
like,
you can't change it. And Christmas lunch.
I always think about this because years and years ago, I had my granddad round. Well, it was my parents, my mum's
Oh, is this
parents.
actually a scenario that's happened?
Yeah. My mum's parents and my granddad, who was not the nicest of people. My mum will not mind me saying that. He's not alive anymore, and he was just grilling me over what I was wearing. I had my earring things in at the time. He was like, what are they? And he was just giving me absolute shit. And I didn't really care because I was like, you're just a fucking annoying old man. Like, he was so stuck in his ways and things.
Yeah, I hate that.
And but everything, I mean, aside from my kind of earring things where he was like, what are they? And I was like, I don't know, it just looks, I like it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, I was I wearing Motus? It might have even been before Motus. Whatever I was wearing, I remember like having not an argument, but like a conversation with him, and I could stand up for what I was wearing, like the brand.
Yeah.
I was like, it means this, like it's got a purpose, like it's conveying a message. It's not just like, oh, they're street parrots. Boom, full stop.
And did it?
No. He was just a fucking grumpy old bastard. Like, he didn't care. Like,
no, but at least you felt better about
well, exactly.
it. Than him
It gives
putting
you
completely
something to
down.
stand on. So when somebody is saying like, and when you start a brand, it's like it's a scary thing. You go out there on Facebook and Instagram, you're like, guys, we're doing this. You don't want to just be like, we're doing this. Like, why are you doing this? And what's going to make your brand stand out from everyone else? Before you even get down to what content you put out and what clothes you put out, at the end of the day, that underlying message is a fairly important thing.
But you got to stick to that. You can't be like, oh, we're doing this to like, I don't know, to make awareness of something.
Yeah.
And then like that never happens. Like, it's got.
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. You'll flip and flop a little bit in the early days,
Yeah.
and you can refine all of these things. So it's not like you need something written down in concrete. But
No, but you just got to make sure that you're still pushing, no matter if you change it or whatever.
Yeah,
you're not just a normal brand. And normal brand. No, but you're not just your average brand, and you're not really doing anything when you said you were.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, we're about Japanese parkour culture, and then you just make like a black T-shirt with your name on it, but there's nothing to do with kind of Japanese culture in there or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, yeah,
exactly.
But where are we going with this? And yes, I think you just have to be really, really solid about it before you go into it. And that's not like it. If you go into it and you change your mind in a year's time, it's not the end of the world. Like, you live and you learn kind of thing. But if you are going to build a brand, you're going to be investing your own personal money, and you want to. The thing I've learned is, if you're investing your own money, even if it's at the start, because once you build that brand, that money within the company, it's not yours personally. You can't just pull it out. I mean, you could, but you'd run everything into the ground. But you start to feel like that money is as important as anything. And when you start to build up a bit of cash, you're like, cool, what's the best way to invest this? What's the best sort of thing to do this to keep everything growing?
Yeah.
And you become sort of attached to it in a way. So you don't, you want to, and I can't stand behind something that I do with the brand unless I feel 100% about it. Like, if I'm going to invest money into something, and I've as I said, I've learned this the hard way. Like, I've done stuff where I've bought products, like I've sort of ordered clothes that I haven't felt 100% about down the line, like near the end. And I probably could have changed it one more time, or I could have done something different. And I've just been like, it's too late now, I've got to commit kind of thing. And then you struggle to sell it, because it's really hard to sell something that you're not like in love with in a way. Like, you have to love everything you put out, because it's very, very hard to push it without that. And it's very hard to put your money into things. So it's you want to feel
you're gonna end up at some point, maybe you're gonna lose money. So
I've fucking the amount of money that we've technically not lost, but lost.
No,
like,
it is. It's the way you're gonna put it. Like,
there's mistakes
even now. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah. You can invest money into something and you think, oh great, like, we're gonna go away and do this trip and spend all this money on it, and we're gonna make a video and it's gonna go viral, and then millions of people will buy our clothes, and then no one watches the video and you get no money back, and you're like, well, that fucked up.
Talk about viral. Like, have any more clothes sold because Marx's one went viral?
No.
Exactly. Like,
no,
it's
not at all.
It doesn't mean anything unless it's like the lookbook of your new clothing
I
range
think-
and that goes completely viral, then I guess it's got some more.
That's going to help. I
Yeah.
think it depends on it depends on the video. It depends on, like, that video is just Mark's. The topic about why it was getting shared is just Mark's.
Yeah.
Therefore,
It just happened to be on the Motus YouTube
we've
channel.
gone up in subscribers. The website traffic jumped a bit. Nothing major, though.
But that just goes to show content is going to be one of your biggest helping hands
Oh,
ever.
yeah.
Like,
So
we're
this is
so lucky right now that we can essentially have free advertising, whereas back in the day you'd pay for a billboard.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
billboard space that's going to cost so much money, and you'll probably just get a few people look at it while they drive past and go, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, it is this thing of, like, you can just whack a video online, and if you're good at it, or if you've got people who are good at it, like, that can then create sort of retention that then people are like, oh, I want to buy this.
Yeah.
And
And it's fun at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
what's fun
that's
about
the
putting a billboard up?
Yeah. That's the thing within parkour is, like, we've got it. I mean, to be honest, especially to start off within parkour, and this,
Yeah.
I need to come back to something that I just thought of actually in a minute, but we already have this huge community of hundreds of thousands of people around the world who already want to be associated with parkour stuff. So if you are a parkour brand, and I still, when I say parkour brand, I mean, I think you need to be more than just a parkour brand. Like, you need to have something. What is your USP? What's the thing that's going to relate? But as a parkour brand, you already have this huge audience that you can tap into very easily. You can just get on YouTube, get on Instagram, get seen, and you've already got a market. Whereas if we were just trying to go into the big bold world of big scary world of kind of streetwear or just general fashion, that's a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, you're already relating to people with parkour, so
Yeah, well, you've already got, like, I mean, yeah, you've just already got this sort of this little audience who are part of a much bigger audience.
Yeah.
And I mean, so this is what I was going to say is, this is what you hear from every single brand who are sort of starting up at the moment, is they're like, oh, and they say this as if this is their USP. And I've had this from multiple people who've kind of just asked me the same question, or I've spoken to about brands. They're like, yeah, we want to make parkour clothes, but we want to appeal to the market outside of parkour, and we want to get normal people wearing our clothes.
Yeah, but that is like that's probably the dream for probably most
It's everyone.
Yeah,
It's
no, like
like-
we want that. I'm sure like
Everyone
Star
wants
are kind
it.
of doing that.
Yeah, I think Star are probably doing it the most, and Farang actually.
Farang a bit.
I think Farang have
Because
kind of.
probably Ann and Anwar though.
Anand's got some good exposure out there, and I think just
Yeah.
generally they're tapping into the sort of the scene out there. Star are doing it through the.
that is not a USP, and that is not like
That's the thing. It's
that's
not a USP.
original either.
It's
That's
just
not-
that's just simply I want to get bigger. Like
Yeah.
I want to scale. Like that's all you're saying is I want to get bigger.
I mean,
because
because really you're not gonna make a massive brand if it's just gonna be parkour people buying your shit. But it can be enough. But do you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna need to better than just tapping into normal people, inspiring people through your clothes to start parkour. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be, setting parkour as a good example.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, we're talking about this within the parkour space, and it's like we want to be, and all of us, we want to essentially be kind of going like you. I mean, if we get into like wholesale streetwear stores or stuff like this, you want that kid going through the rack and going, oh, what's this design? Oh, I like this, and then like reading the swing tag or something. Like Farang's swing tags are so good. There's a really concise little story about Farang as a team and also just parkour, and it links back to the sport. So I mean, I'd love to know if there is. I'm sure it has already happened, but I think there will be this growing thing as some of these brands start to break out of parkour a bit, of these people who have discovered a sport through clothing. Because I'm sure there are kids who have gone out and they've bought I don't want to say DC. That's a fairly old,
old
skate.
a Vans. Do you mean like that's?
Yeah, like a skate. Yeah, because I mean Vans, generic kind of brand, but
I mean,
heavily rooted in skateboarding.
Yeah, there's probably so many people who bought the shoes, and even just by someone who knows about skateboarding has gone past. I mean, I doubt anyone who buys Vans don't know that it's part of skateboarding, because skateboarding is massive.
But it's just these little
like
things.
one of their friends would be like, they're skate shoes or something.
Yeah.
And then now maybe they're not going to look it up when they get home, but now they have a knowledge of like, okay,
It's a spark.
I'm now wearing shoes that are to do with skateboarding.
Yeah. That's all it is. It's a spark. Like,
and if I like those shoes, then I guess I like skateboarding.
I like a Thrasher hoodie, so I guess that means I like skateboarding.
That's
but
right.
yeah, I mean, we all want to expand past parkour, because honestly, I don't think, like, even if you had everyone in the parkour community buying, maybe not everyone, but I mean, even if you had a massive share of the parkour community as diehard fans, I think really, like, that's going to be a brand that makes a decent amount of money, but it's not like kind of suddenly let's say the vast majority of the parkour community are buying Motus clothing fairly regularly. I still don't think that would be enough money and revenue to sort of go, oh, Kelan, like, here's a full-time career. Luke, here's a full-time career. Like, oh shit, you're saving for a mortgage. Oh, you just got a house. Like, I don't think there's that many people in the community, and I don't think there's that many sales and things. So it's like we all want to expand. We want parkour to grow, and we want to get out of it as well, and we want to point people back in. So that's not your USP, but I think you should all be aspiring to expand to that point. So I mean, what we've spoken about so far is we haven't even talked about making clothes. I mean, you're a brand, you want to start something, you've got your name, your USP. I mean, your USP is probably going to be fairly, well, not necessarily, but it might be linked to kind of what kind of product you're going to be putting out.
Yeah.
But especially within this parkour space, I think there is so much room for more clothing brands. But that being said, there are a number, like, if you go in now, you are going to be hard pushed to say to someone like, well, why buy you over Farang? When Farang are killing it with their quality, why buy your stuff? When Stora are killing it with their content, and there's so much to like talk about when somebody says, what's that Stora t-shirt? Why buy your stuff? But if you come in and you start making product that isn't your generic t-shirt, suddenly you've got that's your fucking USP, and you've got a whole audience there. Like, it's really hard to think of sort of the best example, but I mean, even if you were like, oh, I'm going to make the best shoelaces, and there's nothing special about them. Maybe you do some colorways, but they're strong and they're durable, but they're just branded nicely. Like, you'd probably find a little bit of a market there. Yeah, I'm not saying that's the best idea there, because I don't think that many people want to make shoelaces. Yeah. But, I mean, stuff... There's accessories. You could just be a brand that just makes hats. Literally, you could just be I mean, what's the sock brand? Stance. Stance is one of them. And then there's Happy Socks. I'm not in parkour.
Right. Sorry, yeah. No, Happy Socks is one. It's literally just socks.
Just socks.
And a bit of underwear, but that's it. It's like, that's it.
Yeah. Like, you could, there are little things that you could kind of make your niche, and you could dominate. And if you dominated parkour socks, and they, I don't know, gave better ankle support and some, because this is the thing, you start off small, you just make some cool socks and people like the patterns. Then you build it up, so you're doing tech socks that somehow have, you sweat less and they have better ankle support and things like that. Then no one's gonna fucking buy the Farang socks. I mean, not no one. I love the Farang socks, actually. They're banging.
Have you got socks on the store?
Right here.
Really?
Farang socks are basically the only socks I wear. I bought like
I'm gonna
10...
touch your socks.
Yeah, they're used.
Oh, well.
I bought like 10 pairs of shit Nike socks from TK Maxx, and they were awful. And then Farang sent me a load of socks, and they're actually amazing socks. They're really simply designed, and they're really, really well made. Yeah. And I know parkour people are like, oh, I don't want to spend money on an accessory. Like, people like a t-shirt or whatever. But genuinely, Farang socks are fucking amazing.
Sick. Didn't even know they were out.
But if you came in and you killed it with socks, and absolutely killed it, and you had short socks, long socks, whatever, like...
And you became known as the parkour brand thing.
Yeah. And you did tech wear and things, then you could kill it. Like, you could do so well. So don't be afraid of... But also, I think at the start of that, you have to love socks. Like, I'm not
yeah, for sure.
I'm not that fussed about socks, so I'm not like, fuck, we have to make shitloads of socks. Like, if you are just, for some reason, that is your thing, because you've like I said, you've got to be passionate about it. Then you could come in and you could kill it. But without that passion, then you're gonna struggle. But yeah, so don't be afraid to look at other things. Like, everything is a risk until it isn't, if you know what I mean. Like, you could be like, I'm gonna make, I don't know, just trying to think of kind of accessory based stuff, or stuff that isn't so obvious for parkour. And like, I mean, we've tried different products that haven't sold so well. Other people have tried different things. Like, maybe that individual product just wasn't the one, but you could come in, and if you're like, I fucking love this, and you make it to a standard that you are happy with, and then you push it, you could turn it into a trend. You could turn it into a thing.
Parkour jewelry.
Yeah, but I mean, even accessories. Like,
yeah, I know, that's what I mean.
So don't be don't be objected to sort of to walking off the beaten path of just like, I'm gonna do t-shirts or whatever. But let's talk about this as if that is the most obvious thing that most people are gonna do.
Yeah.
And I think there are some very early pitfalls that people fall into. the biggest, and I've seen this firsthand a number of times, is, and I mean literally, I've seen somebody get 100 subscribers on YouTube and then make a batch of t-shirts, and it's just like, you might sell a couple to your mates, but really your mates are going to look at you for a free t-shirt, because that's what happens. You have to create some form of audience, not necessarily first.
No, but it would kind of help, because you can focus on that first.
You're
focusing on 100 different things
Yeah.
beforehand, or at least like just listening to this podcast, I guess that's like, okay, maybe I'll make a brand in the future, then sort of learn about it as much as you can while creating as much content. Let's just say content.
Well, I think that's
getting
the thing.
your name out there.
Yeah.
And then once you feel like you're ready and you have made a tiny bit of an impact, or even a lot more, then it's going to be easier for maybe you to be motivated as well, because you're like, okay, people like me, or like what I stand for.
And you feel, because if you're investing a couple £100 into stuff, like a few t-shirts, a few hundred t-shirts, 100 t-shirts, whatever, at the start, it's fucking scary. You don't want it. Trust me, you don't want stock just sitting there, because it freaks you out. You're like, oh, this stuff isn't selling. How do I sell this? And if you've only got 100 people to cater to, it's intimidating. You got 100 t-shirts and 100 subscribers on YouTube. Like, not every single person is going to buy a t-shirt.
No.
The parkour community is notoriously frugal as well. So like, a lot of people don't like buying stuff. But yeah, so as Kelan said, like, content is a great way of building exposure and building brand before you even have to put any proper money in. Like, if you've got good spots, especially if there's more than one person, like if you're a team, you can go out. So I know we keep mentioning Fifth Unit, but they are this rising group of guys in the UK, and they released a t-shirt last year, or maybe they released two t-shirts. I don't know how well they sold. I've seen a few people wearing them, but like, maybe they fell into this same trap of like, because these guys are still fairly small, but I think it's ever since, more like in the last 6 months, it feels like they've really been stepping up the gear.
I hope so.
And that, I think, is one of those things where, like, if maybe that t-shirt didn't sell as well as they wanted, maybe it sold great, I don't know. But I bet now if they dropped one, or in 6 months' time, or in a year's time, if they drop one, it would do way better, because they've built more exposure, they've built more brand. Like,
but they also are doing it right, like they're hitting all the jams and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's the same
yeah.
thing. I swear we did talk about how to get like
it's the same thing.
something.
If you can build that attention, going to events, like if you're that guy who's always at events, like me with
physical,
me with Motus, I was very lucky because I'd already built a good kind of name for myself as a filmmaker and like a presence in the community. So when I shifted it to Motus, like I had I could kind of take that attention and go, hey guys, I'm doing this, and it was sort of a lot of people. I mean, I don't think I could have done what I did if I didn't already have that. But I think so. Yeah, it's you want to build that following first, because you don't want to just throw money into something, and especially if you're young, you're like, Mom, can I borrow some money? I want to make some t-shirts, like, and then if they don't sell, it's heartbreaking. Like, it's really, really tough. You want to feel really, really certain. You almost want people saying, like, when are you going to bring out stuff? Like, you guys should make a t-shirt, rather than like never look at people as fucking dollar signs or pound signs or whatever. Like, this is something that I've kind of always had an issue with in some regards, and you see it a lot in like the music culture with paid meet and greets. Like, why the fuck should somebody be paying money to meet you? You are a human being. They are a human being. Why should they? And it's like, oh, well, my time is worth money. Like, my attention, I can only see sort of, we've got such a big following. I mean, this is in the music. Like, they're like, I've got such a big following that it would be dangerous to meet all of them at once and things. It's like, you can work out ways that it's free. You could do fucking prize giveaways or whatever. Like, fuck charging money to meet you. And in the same way, it's like, well, yeah, you've built up 100 people, and this comes back to like being in it for the money. You're like, cool, I've got an audience. I've got 1,000 people on YouTube. Like, let's make some fucking money. They're going to give me their money. And it's like, well, why? What value are you giving them? Like, if you went on YouTube right now and you made the best fucking parkour tutorials, because no one's hit that button in a while. Yeah. And the sport is growing and people want to learn shit. Like, if you went on and you made the best parkour tutorials for a year, and then you started a brand off the back of that, you have already provided so much value to your audience that they would be like, oh shit, like, this guy's giving me a lot already. Like, I'm going to give my money back to him.
Yeah. No, you need to get back. You need to give back.
Yeah. So you have to provide a reason for them to want your stuff. And yes, you could go, oh, well, my stuff's going to be the best looking. And that's definitely a huge part of it. Like, people don't want to buy stuff that isn't good looking or they don't like. But even stuff that they like, there's got to be some form of incentive. Like, they've got to be like, oh, I just love the aesthetic of the whole brand. I love what the brand stands for. Like, I love the fact that they're about fucking street parrots. Like, street parrots are my fucking shit. But if you haven't got that and you're just like, cool, you subscribe to me, therefore you're going to give me your money, and then I'm going to go and buy loads of weed. You're like, well, you fucked it.
Well, there was this. I saw something on YouTube. This rapper was saying, there's so many people nowadays that make it, and then they're only seen. Well, they're not seen, but they spend all their time in the club, spending all the money, like all of this shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't like making music. You like what happened. You do not like.
Yeah.
You should be like, wow, that was a success. I'm so excited to get back in the studio and continue making music because that's what I love. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
It's just now I have the money to like do it all the time.
Like, building the brand should be like the doing what you do within the brand should be the driving incentive for doing it.
Yeah.
Not making money at the end of it, and not just like capitalizing on everything.
But of course, it's lovely to be able to make money so you can do it full time.
Well, you have to. Like,
Yeah,
this is one of the
exactly.
things, and this is the thing about parkour. People are like, oh, you're charging so much for a pair of trousers. It's like, well, that pair of trousers costs a certain amount of money to make, and I want it to be a certain amount, like certain quality, and it's taken this much time to get it done, and we've paid import tax, and VAT, and all of this. Like, figures are there for a reason. Yes, you could obviously inflate your margins to fucking. You could do a luxury parkour brand, and you could have £300 trousers or whatever. Like, but money has to exist, and also as you get older, you're 15, you live with your parents, like, things are pretty chill. You get to sort of my age, and you're like, well, I need to pay bills. Like, I've got to fucking buy my dog food.
Yeah.
Like, this.
It's not all like, I want this money so I can buy a car. Or
Yeah,
buy some nice,
exactly. Like,
nice clothes.
and where were we going with this? So
Just money, just being a dickhead with money. That's
just
pretty
being a
much it.
dickhead with money,
Or just like people,
Oh, and
people
please,
thinking.
please, when you make your first fucking t-shirts, don't like flog how many orders you're doing all over Instagram and like be like, oh, we're making so much. That you always see it. People do like, they just kind of flog like a little pile of like 6 orders, and they're like, oh, we've made so much money. Or they do like, they sort of do like the dollar sign or whatever.
Oh yeah, I know.
And it's like, you haven't made fuck all. You made a few £100, like
Yeah,
half.
but then when you're about to pay to restock those t-shirts or make more t-shirts, probably made nothing.
Yeah, well,
No,
I mean,
well,
hopefully not nothing, because
No,
hopefully you've
but
set up
if
your
you've
margins.
just
But like,
started- if you've just started and that's what's gonna happen.
yeah, it's like,
Like-
oh, we've made a load of money, and it's like, well, yeah, you've got to pay a portion of that back in to buy more stock. Like, some of that's
Yeah.
got to go on postage or whatever. Like, that's the thing, is like, you sell a t-shirt for 20 quid, somebody pays 4 quid postage, you do 24 quid or whatever, and then you times that by 10, and then you're like, oh, I've made loads of money. But actually, there's 4 quid out of every single t-shirt there that is not your money. That's going to the post office. Like, and
But you shouldn't. This is different to like saying hurry up because we're selling out quick, right? Or do you know what I mean? Like, instead of being look how many t-shirts we sold, like if I was to be if I had a brand and I
And
knew
you were
that I
like-
was selling really quickly,
yeah.
If I was like things are going great, we're nearly sold out, so like make sure that.
But that's just kind of honesty, and that's like, hey,
Exactly,
guys, I mean, this is clearly selling. Like, if you want one, get one. I think what you do also see is you see people and they'll order 100 t-shirts and they'll actually stick 20 online, and then they'll sell those 20 and they'll be like, whoa, we sold out overnight. And then in like a week's time, it's when you see people and they do rapid restocks in like a week, and they're like, oh, we've just restocked these. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You just didn't fucking put them online. Like, you've just done it to give and there's a level of marketing here. Like, there is a level of,
it's kind of like
because if you see something that's high demand,
but also
yeah. I mean, and I'm not even against that to that degree. Like, it's just humorous when you can maybe tell it's happened.
yeah.
But if something is in high demand, it does sort of drive the need. Like, people are like, oh shit, I want that. But so let's bring it back to, like, we'll go down the kind of obvious route. So yeah, you're a brand. You've got a couple of thousand subscribers on YouTube. You've done well. You've built your audience. You've taken all this advice and you've cultivated it into a good following. You're like, cool, we're going to do t-shirts or we're going to do clothes. And it's like, cool, well, where do you even start? And really, you have 2 options. Firstly, fuck off any of those websites where it's like, what are they called? Like T-Press or something, I don't know. Like,
What?
where you design something and then the person has to like buy it through that site, and then it's made by some random person. Like,
I think I know what you mean.
It's
Is that different to like
well, you don't
Fruit of the Loom, or is that I'm
No,
really
so that-
uneducated with this sort of stuff.
So those
Is
are those are just stock garments. So we'll
Okay,
go on to
cool.
that in a second. What I'm talking about is there are these websites where I could design a t-shirt, I could design a design, and I could upload it, and then it would like automatically plaster that over a t-shirt and a mug and a pillow and things. And you can go like, hey guys, do you want to buy my t-shirts? And it's the shittest blank, and it's not even got a fucking label sewn into it, and things like this. It's not sustainable.
No.
I mean, I'm sure there are brands that have started off of that, and fucking fair play if they have. But I think being redirected to some third-party site to buy a thing that is going to be printed awfully and yeah, it's just not it's not that customer experience that you're hoping to probably sell. This is another thing actually, just quickly, is like you need to sort of position yourself and be like, maybe I do want to be the luxury. And if you're the luxury, then you need to go for kind of the final thing that I'm going to talk about regarding making stuff, like, or at least try to, because you could be like, cool, I'm going to make t-shirts and they're never going to be sold more than 20 quid. Like everything I make is going to be £20 and I'm going to be the £20 parkour store. And you're like, I'm going to target the sort of the less affluent people, the people in slightly poorer countries, and that is my market, and I'm going to build up enough profit to then do things and help those guys out or something like this.
And that'd be sick.
And that'd be sick.
Cool.
The issue is that you're not going to be able to make luxury, high quality style stuff if everything you make is going to be 20 quid. Because, I mean, we've produced products where it costs £20 to make the product. And then
you can't sell that for 20 quid.
Exactly, because you don't make any money.
Yeah.
Well, you do, but like.
Well, no, you've just.
Yeah. Well, you don't make any profit. That's the word. So fuck off those. You basically have two options. You either go to a factory or you print on blanks. And I'll talk about printing on blanks first. And in the early days, I was really against printing on blanks because there is this level of like, I mean, fuck Fruit of the Loom, but like Gildan, Continental things. You're like, well, it doesn't feel very like, I want to be more than that. And I was very inspired by Farang in the early days because they've had a factory kind of a couple of hours drive away from them, and they've always been able to go in.
Quite lucky, to be fair.
It's an insanely. You can't do that in the UK.
No,
like there are factories in the UK, but they're luxury factories. Like the fashion industry in the UK is a very different place. So with blanks, I think I used to be like, oh, I don't want to do it. Now I think it's a sensible financial thing to do at the start, especially for the absolute majority of you wanting to do this. You will be looking to look up a screen printing place. There's loads in the UK. They're all fairly priced, fairly similar. They'll have tons of different stock, some higher end stuff, some lower end stuff, and you can get a good blank, and you can print on it. You can get custom labels and everything like this. And I recommend, like, this also comes into it. It's like, you want to be the 20 quid parkour brand, you're not going to be able to afford to do and sell a custom label and a print inside the neck and nice packaging and polybagging and like I mean, we do like the TMP magazine that goes in with every order and stuff like this, and stickers. Like, there's only so much you can work into your margins before you will just not be making enough money to be sustainable. So anything you do, anything you factor into your packaging, like anything you factor into the process of making your clothes has to go into your margin, because if it doesn't, then you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sorry, because this is basically 90% me talking.
No, but I'm actually, it's funny because
I
don't know, and I don't know enough about this sort of stuff.
Well,
so
you get it, right? It's
still,
like if a t-shirt costs £5 and a TMP mag per order, like we order kind of in the thousands, but per order costs like per one is like 20p. Then suddenly that t-shirt plus the magazine £5.20.
Yeah.
Plus polybagging, putting it in a plastic bag might be another 5p. Plus a swing tag on the t-shirt might be 15p. So there's all these things that add up, and suddenly your t-shirt is not a £5 t-shirt, it's a £6 or £7 t-shirt.
Yes.
Then you need to make sure that your margin is at a decent enough level. Like the typical thing you always hear is take whatever you're buying and times it by 3. So let's say your t-shirt does.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very rough way to do it, and I would recommend going a little bit more in depth. Sort of, maybe not in the early days, but you want to really have a complete idea of what that is going to cost from start to finish, and know that you are making enough money. And so you could times it by 3. So you take let's say it does cost £5. You times that by 3, you got a £15 thing that you can sell. So you could sell your t-shirt for £15, and that technically is great. Technically, you could sell that for 20 quid, and then you've got an extra £5 profit in there.
But you need to be like, well, why are people gonna pay 20 quid for it?
Well, I mean, 20 quid is a fairly standard t-shirt price, I would say. So actually, like, you could probably get away with that. But if your £5 t-shirt is shit quality and doesn't feel like it costs £20 or doesn't look like it had to cost 20, you still got the Fruit of the Loom label in the back of it and stuff like this. People are going to be like, well, I'm not buying from them again. Like, this is shit. So you have to feel personally that what you are producing matches the price you were putting on it. Like, you're a joke if you print, I mean, fucking Antisocial Social Club and brands like that.
Yeah.
They printed everything on Gildan and they fucked up. I mean, these are one of the Antisocial Social Club. If you look into these guys, they are a prime example of one being.
A lot of people wear them as well, right?
Well, a lot of people do fakes. They print on Gildan.
Oh, really?
You can literally download the fucking PNG from the internet, whack it on a Gildan hoodie, and then you've got it's exactly the same.
Wow.
But they're a prime example of scaling too quickly. Like, the guy behind it scaled so fast. I mean, he was also a scumbag. Like, I think they got taken to court because they literally just didn't send people clothes because they couldn't buy and produce. I mean, they're printing on blanks, which is easier for them, but they couldn't get the stuff out the door quick enough to fulfill their orders. They were letting people down, and so they didn't have everything in place. Fucking millions and millions and millions of pounds in revenue, but I mean, the whole thing is just falling apart. And I think
I didn't even realise that.
I thought I saw a lookbook from them the other day, and all the comments were like, fuck this brand, this is a joke. It's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, that is hard.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, a customer is the sort of the king. Like, you have to keep them fairly happy.
But also, if you are a customer, you got to understand, like, especially a Motus customer, that you're obviously paying for the quality and all this, and because all of the added stuff up that you were saying, the swing tags and everything. But also, it's time. You're obviously paying a bit for. I mean, it's not that we like think about this often.
Well, the thing is, this is the thing I really need to actually. I mean, and this is in full transparency. But I need to be putting more. I if anything, I should be putting more into the margin to account for my time, like my time, your time, everything. Like, if anything, I'm probably underpricing it with regards to like wanting to expand and have more staff and stuff like this. But it is scary when you put something online and people are like, "Oh, I'm not buying that." Like, ugh.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, moving forward, now we're working with the best factory I've ever come across in my life, and they are just blowing me away with every single sample and every. I mean, the fucking.
It's very good.
The shit we've got here, like.
Yeah, I'm so surprised with that. And it's nicely put together as well. You can't see this.
Oh, it's like our packaging and things. I put it on Instagram a while ago. Like,
sick.
Everything we're doing is sustainable. We've got recycled mulch off the factory floor turned into swing tags. We got biodegradable shit. We got recycled plastic. Like, all this amazing stuff where. And I'm going to be pushing that side of things hard because I want people to. That's the Christmas dinner conversation. It's like, well, what's that T-shirt? And you're like, this T-shirt's made out of fucking recycled ocean plastic.
Yeah.
Like, bottles are pulled out of the ocean and turned into this T-shirt. Suddenly, that T-shirt is worth so much more to you than just a fucking T-shirt with a logo on it.
But you were saying, right, there's only two ways. Well, there isn't only, but you were talking about blanks and you're talking about factories.
Yeah.
There is a third one that I wouldn't say everyone. Well. You can all try it out to, get to grips with what you like in clothing. But there's things like, if you know half and half or rough cut, what Jack's doing. He's not necessarily targeting free runners with that. He's just doing it, and he is involved with free running, and he does so. But he is doing it fully himself at home.
But my biggest worry here, right, with Jack, is that I fucking love what he's doing regarding like the stuff he's putting out in the entrepreneur. I mean, the clothing isn't necessarily my taste, but the entrepreneurial and the aspects of it, he's not charging enough.
Yeah, I know.
He's like making a pair of trousers for because
it's the time as well.
The amount of time he spends, so much time and effort. And from what I've seen of his stuff, I mean, I've never stress tested it or anything, but the quality seems pretty decent.
No, it is good.
Given that he's doing it all himself,
he's actually very skilled with a sewing machine.
Yeah,
He's not just putting it together, and he will test things. And the thing that Giles was saying as well with like the recycled ocean sort of shit, he is pretty much. Not doing as much as that, but because he's taking it out of it's secondhand clothes, so he's not paying for someone to make it and all this sort of.
I can't remember the exact word. I mean,
it's still recycling.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is. It's recycling.
Yeah, and it's good, and it's also that money's going to charity at the same time.
Yeah, because he buys it all from charity stores, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which doesn't put the price down because he is adding. Like, I don't know, he'll find something that is worth a lot of money and someone's just fucked up.
Like some Stone Island jacket or something, and
he will fuck it up even more to maybe make it more money because he will cross the two brands together. I don't know. But yeah, I guess he is.
But I want him to charge way more because I know that he's putting time and effort. And I'm sure he's probably playing the long game in the terms of he knows if he did that stuff and immediately charged £100 for a pair of trousers, then no one's going to buy it. So he's building that fan base and the audience and things.
He has already got like a small, because it's obviously going to be small because it's a very different taste of clothes, but it's really sick. Like I know who he's trying to aim for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's really into like the nowadays sort of rap and all this shit, and it's like it's sick.
Oh, it's growing,
and he's going to target all the like people growing up listening to this type of music as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's already people messaging him like, "Can you make this one
like custom stuff?" Yeah, exactly. And that's where you can start charging money.
And I think he's pushing because now he's pushing a lot with his rough cut things.
Yep.
And I think he's already told me he's like, this is going to be the stuff that costs a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, that's time that you're going to pay for. You're going to pay for the time and effort. He might spend a whole entire, I don't know, doesn't sound like much, but like 2 days solidly, like from.
That's a huge amount of time on one garment.
Yeah. From waking up and going to bed.
And it's a one of one garment. It's not like you're getting 300 of the same t-shirt. It's one garment.
So you're wearing this piece of clothing that no one else has.
We'll put his stuff in the description of this podcast, so you should check it out. Because that's a very good example of like, he is a parkour guy. He's got a USP. He's doing something very different. Mm-hmm. He's not necessarily hitting the parkour audience hard, but he's already got a good kind of audience at his fingertips. Yeah. So that's a very good example of like, taking a lot of these things that we're talking about into the steps.
Yeah, and he fucking loves it. So so you should love.
It's his passion. All you see on Instagram is just him, just sewing machine, just grafting.
So you want to kind of love what you're doing in the brand. You have to, otherwise it's just not going to work.
Yeah, you know? And I mean, if you think, he's slaving away over 2 days over a pair of trousers that he's probably spent a bit of money on getting the stuff. He's then put loads of time in. If he worked the most minimum wage job in the world. Well, not in the world, but in England, he could earn far more money in those 2 days than he is getting off of that £30 trouser sale.
Mm-hmm. But he's not going to enjoy that.
Exactly, that's his passion, and it's going to grow, and I hope it grows.
Perfect. Yeah, same.
But yeah, so the blanks are probably your best option because also you can order in much smaller quantities. Like you could order, I don't really know, I don't know how low they go. It depends on the place, but you could probably get like fucking 30 t-shirts made. And then you want to give a few away to your friends for free because also free product is a great way of getting your stuff out there.
Yeah,
but
you want other people to promote it.
It means you're throwing
it. If they bought it, they might happen to promote it. But
at the very, very, very start of Motus, first ever Off the Edge tour, which was 2015, and this was like before I'd even announced the brand. Like I think I'd made the social media channels, but I hadn't actually started making anything yet.
Yeah.
I put the logo on maybe 50 or 100 t-shirts, and I just set every single one I gave away for free. I took a load on tour with me. Jesse was wearing them, Marcus, Corey, everyone like that.
Sick.
I sent fucking, I mean, Alfred Scott I remember he was literally just popping off, and I was like, hey, you're sick, can I send one to you? And he sent one to him. Like, I just sent them out, and I wrote a little hand note, and I sent them out. And I don't know if anyone's still got one. I know I got the first one still, really? Archived. And it was just a big fucking white Motus logo now, which is honestly is still a bit like, oh.
Yeah. But still, back then, like when I first saw it, it didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't go, wow, that's a big logo. I just kind of just saw it as like Motus, and then I would like wore it.
Yeah. And that was and I gave one to Marks as well. I remember that. And he fucking repped it. He repped it so hard. Like so, and I was like, if I ever sponsor athletes, you're on the list, and that's why Marks is here today. Like, but so that's a fucking note, anyone, for if you want to get noticed. Like if somebody does send you some free shit, or even if you buy like an upcoming brand's t-shirt, like rep the shit out of it because they will appreciate it like nothing, like crazy. But yeah, so you can do smaller minimums, you can do slightly more risky designs and things, and fuck, we haven't even spoken about designing. Like, have you got a logo? What's your logo? Like, what do the street parrots look like? Is it some fucking gangster parrot icon with a bandana and an eye patch, or is it like some swaggy? I don't know. Like,
but you can check. Like, I guess we've done it with you've done it with Motus. We have like, we changed the logo like slightly, but it's always going to be that logo, but it will change like the.
I mean, this is kind of one of these things. Like some brands are like Nike, and Nike will never change their swoosh. They will they'll adapt it slightly, and you get like a custom, I don't know, you'll get a collaboration with some artists, and they might make it weird, or you do a Velcro swoosh and things like this.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change. Same with their font and thing. I mean, I'm sure their font probably has changed over the decades. Like,
yeah, but slightly. Probably nothing major.
Some brands get a logo and they stay with it forever. And some logos mean something. Some logos are not so much. People always ask, what's the Motus logo mean? And I'm like, I don't know, I'll just pay someone and they designed it. Like one day, if someone wants to fucking come up with a sick, deep meaning, like I always talk about it and I'm like, oh, you know, it could be like, the line going through the middle is like, well, you get the two lines on either side, and that's like sort of the pedestrians, and they're avoiding going through this area of
the obstacle area.
Yeah, and then you get this line going through the middle, and actually it's like, no, it means fuck all.
That's a good meaning. The line straight through is us as free
But
runners.
if you look at like what the Adidas symbol means,
yeah,
like there's the leaf one and there's the three stripe one. They've like got a meaning for it, but it one of the meanings I know kind of came about later on.
Yeah,
they were like, oh, this represents this and this, because I researched it a while ago. Not every brand's logo has to be like the key, if you know what I mean. And also, you don't have to have a logo. You could just have your brand name in a typeface, and that typeface can change, or it could stay the same forever. It sort of, it depends. Also, you can do a Supreme, and you can create a Halo product, which is, you have your red BOGO, which is your, I mean, you know,
is that what it's called, a BOGO?
BOGO, box logo.
Sick.
That's the Halo product. So they will release one of those on normally a t-shirt, but they do crew necks, hoodies, hats. But if you watch them, they only release one every couple of years. And when they do, they only make a small quantity and they sell like fucking wildfire. The Supreme are interesting because their stuff isn't actually that expensive up front. It's only expensive on resale. Everyone knows Supreme for their Halo product, which is the BOGO. But the majority of what they make is not. It never has the BOGO.
Yeah.
They'll put their and they'll write they'll write Supreme in a completely different typeface on something else or whatever, like or completely like different style things, and people still buy it because it's Supreme. But that item is like the coveted thing. So you could, but also you can't make a Halo product overnight. You can't be like, oh, this is our first T-shirt. It's our Halo product. It's limited.
Yeah.
Like that thing takes time to develop. Like I don't know if we've ever sort of, I don't think we've found the Halo product of Motus yet. Like,
but it will come about. It'll come about. Yeah, Supreme's a weird one. I didn't actually know it was. I knew they have made like a skateboard before, or a skateboard deck, but I didn't realize they are actually a skateboard company.
Yeah.
Like they're from the start.
They're a really interesting company because like they've kind of, everyone thinks they're super. Well, I mean, they've always been super limited because they've grown, but they used to be like in loads of streetwear stores. This is decades ago. They were like kind of just a casual brand and they were everywhere, and then they actually pulled back and they made everything super limited and they just did their own stores like and now they have like a handful of brick and mortar stores around the world, and that is technically, and there's the web store as well. They release a collection every single Thursday.
Really?
Every single week they release a collection, which is funny. Crazy.
They have like sponsored skaters and things.
Yeah,
and there was like articles online about saying all the skaters are like the hype beasts and things like that, but the skaters are like so different to all the people buying the clothes.
Yeah.
And also Supreme, someone else had a Supreme, or that it's hard to describe.
Oh, the Italian company.
I don't know if it was Italian. They were like two Asian guys, and they pretended to be Supreme, making a deal with another bigger company.
Yeah. So it's.
Is that what?
I can't remember the specifics. I saw it literally in the press the other day.
Yeah. And that's mad. And Supreme had no idea about it. That they've just.
No, they knew because they're pissed. It happened a while ago. It's an Italian company that have called themselves like Supreme, but also I think it's like Supreme, or something like that.
But they were definitely.
And they made a deal with like some Asian. I can't remember. Like I don't know the specifics, so I don't want to. So really talk on it in length, but and now Supreme are finally, like, in some interview, the guy who owns it was just like, yeah, it's a fucking joke, like we're pissed, like we're not just letting this thing slide. But they basically used some loophole, and I don't know
what the fuck. But
I mean, also your USP isn't we're going to be the Supreme of parkour.
No.
In the same way that if you make an app, you're not like
Supreme wasn't that at the start.
We're going to be the Uber of this, like. Yeah. Shit like that happens, and that's this incredible brand development and things. And I mean, you get Palace, and there's so many other brands. Skateboarding's a really good one to look at with regards to like drawing parallels between parkour and skateboarding.
Yeah, you can see it mirroring in parkour.
Exactly, yeah.
You can see it happening, which is good news.
But yeah, so you got your blanks, and I mean, let's go onto design briefly, in the sense that in the early days you're going to be fairly limited unless you got shitloads of money. Like this is the thing is. There are two. Obviously, we haven't even spoken about producing in factories yet, but you can either go in small. Like Stora, I think their first batch of t-shirts, the S, I think they borrowed like 300 quid off their parents. Yeah. And made them. Like 300 quid to some is a lot of money, but realistically, like if you're talking about building a business, like it's not a lot of money. Like so they did that, and that was their first batch, and then they just kept kind of refreshing the capital and using it, and they didn't just spaff it over some thing and then they'd thrown all their money away. Like, they kept the ball rolling, which is the way to do it. And you can either do that, or you could go in. I mean, you could go in with like 10 grand and be like, and let's say you're still printing on blanks. You go in with 10 grand and you make 20 designs and different colorways, and you do t-shirts and you do hoodies and everything like this. And then if it sells, and if you make enough noise and if you make enough impact, then that's fucking great. If you don't, then you've just thrown 10 grand into a hole.
Yeah.
And like, the thing about stock and clothing and designs is, yes, you could make something and it might sit for 3 months and no one likes it, and then suddenly the right person wears it or the right thing happens and it pops off. Typically, because hopefully you're sharing this stuff on social media before you even launch it, people are getting a view for it, and typically that's the period where you start to get the best response of like, I like that item. Like, that blue t-shirt is the one I want. And you'll start to get this. And then the sales come in, and the blue is outselling the green by double and things. And you're like, oh, shit, okay. But so and you have weird things. Sometimes you might fucking love the green t-shirt. Personally, you love it. But the blue outsells it. If you've only done that with 100 t-shirts, it's not the end of the world if you end up sitting on a bit of stock and you have to like lower the cost and get rid of it.
Yeah.
If you do go in massive and you don't go hard enough and then you're in trouble. Like, especially, I mean, don't borrow money, huge amounts of money. If you've got loads of money yourself, if you've got loads of savings and you can afford to do it and you really feel strongly, then yes, but do not borrow any money off someone and try and convince them that your clothing brand is going to be their next Supreme in parkour. Like, no, fuck me. It's scary shit. And if it's not your money, don't play with it, kind of thing. Like, you are playing when you do this kind of thing. So yeah, start small is what I would recommend. But if you're gonna go in and make a bit of an impact, then you have to make it. Kelan just trumped. You got to make a decent amount of noise. I did this route, and Breach actually more recently, because I don't know how many people listening to this will remember kind of when Motus first came on the scene. But rather than printing on blanks, I did those first 50 or 100 and gave them all away, built up some brand exposure and things, and then I invested quite a lot of money, a few grand, into a factory I found in Turkey who produced my first stuff, and it was a nightmare. Everything was delayed by about 6 months. They fucked up the first amount of stock, like
Jeez.
crazy fuck ups.
Yeah.
Delays, and everyone was kind of aware I was doing this thing, and it started to get a bit embarrassing. And then finally I got this stuff out, and because I'd kind of made enough noise, and I got Kai to help me with the lookbook, and we shot like really nice photos. Like, I looked at them the other day, and I'm still really happy with like the quality and things. Harry Gallagher on Nightskate was the first model of Motus, and has crazy. Obviously continued to model quite a lot since.
Yeah.
But that, I think I made enough noise, and also this was a few years ago, so there weren't quite so many kind of brands popping off, that actually the initial sales we got were really surprising. And also, I guess, maybe I had a bit of an audience from being kind of me as a filmmaker and things. So I think I did okay then. Breach are the one that I can think of recently who, I mean, they came in, a lot of hype. They got athletes on board kind of from day one. A lot of noise. A lot of noise. And that's the best thing. Yeah. You get a load of athletes on your back, and you make them make as much noise about your brand as possible. And they went quite in. They had a number of products. They went in with trousers straight away, and trousers are one of the more expensive and riskier things to do. If you do them right, they sell really well. If you do them wrong, then they don't really move. And they went in with a lot of noise, and I think it's hopefully paid off for them. So you've got roots there. Yeah,
because now when I think of Breach, I do think of them as one of the big ones.
Yeah, they've
already in the short period
exactly.
Like Storm, Stora, Farang, Motus, Breach is up there as well.
They're up there. They're definitely ones,
but
yeah. I mean,
that's when if I think of that off the top of my head straight away, and then surely Breach. You've done,
and that's
the right
within
things.
A year. They've come in and they've just smacked it hard. And if you can afford to do that, and if you've got the right manpower, then be my guest and sort of try. I'm not saying don't do that. I think you just have to look at your position and really think sensibly, because money is it's a scary thing in a way.
Yeah.
Unless you're insanely wealthy and sort of somebody's just bankrolling you. Yeah, just try again. Here's another 10 grand. So to before we go on to factories, let's just bring it back to design, in the sense that let's say you're going in small. If you've built up, let's say you've built up your audience, you've got your kind of you've given your audience value, then they want to invest in your brand. Typically, I would say, most sensibly, you want to then be producing clothing that is fairly obvious that is your brand. Yeah. Weirdly enough, I mean, my first stuff was kind of branded, and then I think just because I'm a bit obsessed with like concepts and things, we then did like the Origins collection, which was very subtly branded with Motus, but very heavily
I swear, a lot of people were like, "Oh, when's the like logo tee kind of
exactly." Yeah. It was like, "Oh,
Motus.
Here's stuff that's all related to Lease," and then we did like the Run London stuff, and it was like, "Here's stuff that's related," and we did this fucking hoodie that was like. It had three. There was the icon hoodie, and it had three icons from London.
I love that hoodie.
I love that hoodie, and I'm so happy with the design. Like 3 iconic spots of London, which was Elephant and Castle, South Bank, which is the Undercroft pillar, and the Barbican Tower, which is on every single building in Barbican. There's these towers, but people looked at that hoodie and they were like, "Well, what the fuck are these icons? Like, that's not your logo, and that's not your." Kind of like, what is that? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's 3 of London's most iconic spots represented in icon form.
Because it was quite early, I guess, as well.
And
it was. We still had a lot of people.
People really bought it, yeah. But
we were already quite big, but it was still quite early. That it's like we haven't got like right now we got the essentials.
And that's the thing. Then like last year we dropped the essentials, and it sold like fucking crazy because I suddenly realized that people just want to rep Motus. Like they want to wear something that says Motus on it. So when they have that Christmas conversation. They can say, this is Motus, Motus does this. And I think it's about achieving the balance. But this is for us. Like, let's say you bring it back to the start. Typically, your first stuff, I would say, probably keep it fairly simple, keep it fairly branded, because that's the selling point. Or keep it in line with whatever you have sort of built your audience off the back of. And I mean, when it comes down to designs as well, please don't fucking steal designs. I don't mean off Motus. I don't mean off people in the parkour audience. I mean, if you...
Just in general.
Just fucking the amount of people who just go into Pinterest or Google or whatever and they literally copy and paste fucking designs or... And I've... Like, you will always take influence from stuff. It's impossible not to. Like, creativity does not exist. It is a melting pot of loads of different influences from everywhere. And if you take a carrot and you put it in a pot, it's still a fucking carrot. If you take a carrot and some lettuce, you got carrot and lettuce. It still looks fairly like fucking carrot and lettuce. So what you want to do is you want to get every vegetable in the sun and you want to pull these influences in. And you don't just want to be looking at clothing. You want to look at the outside world. You want to look at things that are inspiring you. Like, look at the fucking shape of the tail feathers on your favorite parrot. And then think, cool, well, I'm going to take that shape and I'm going to take the color of the fucking parrot's beak, and that is my design for the street parrots. Like, you want to pull.
We're gonna have to make street parrots.
Street parrots is my secret brand. Yeah. It's the official. It's the street.
Watch people want like
street parrots.
Make them.
They're the street parrots are the gang of the Motus Prodcast. They're we
should make like 5 t-shirts.
We have the Star have the Star Army, which is fairly obvious. It's the Star Army. We have the Motus not even the Motus Projects. The Motus Projects has the Motus Prodcast, and the Motus Prodcast has the Street Parrots.
We should sponsor a few.
I bet there's already we need to Google it. I bet there's already a company called the Street Parrots.
And then they're gonna think we're slagging them off the whole time.
They're probably breakdancers or something.
The Street Parrots, yeah.
But that's where you get that with these designs, because. And this is the thing that fucking kills me, is you say you want to become a brand that then gets more exposure and gets into the streetwear audience and gets outside of parkour. But if you are a small parkour brand and you're coming up and you're stealing designs off of a bigger streetwear brand who might be really well respected in the streetwear audience, and that streetwear brand might already have 100,000 followers and you have 10,000, and you steal their design, that 100,000 people, if they end up seeing your brand, are going to go, what the fuck? You've just ripped that off. And you lose all integrity. Yeah. And this happens a fair amount in the parkour community. It's embarrassing. And I've definitely sometimes pulled influence a little too closely, and sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I probably could have put more into that. Like one of the first ever t-shirts, of the 2 t-shirts most did at the very, very start, one of the layout of it was
the white one.
The white one. The layout of that
Community is Key, that one
was fairly similar to the layout of another t-shirt that I'd seen. It was a big box with basically text in it. But I kind of just went like, oh, I quite like the way they've placed that text, and I kind of did a similar thing, and I got a guy to help me sort of place it nicely. And I look back at that and I'm like, oh, I could have tried harder.
Yeah.
Because this is also the thing. As you learn, you look back at shit and you're like, I'm a fucking joke if you do it.
Because you got to put your all into every product.
And even like the movement t-shirts.
Yeah.
And that's not like a rip-off, but last year there was
people who have done it. Like,
there was a huge amount of like dual text, basically. It's kind of layered text, red, black, purple, black, whatever. Like people layering different colored text in different two styles. And I kind of jumped on the trend and did it, and it sold all right. Nothing sort of mind-blowing. But I look at it and I'm like, could have tried harder. Like it was a trend that I kind of tried to jump on, like a design trend. Because a garment trend is completely different. If everyone is making dad hats, then make a fucking dad hat. If everyone's making bum bags and you can get in early enough, make a bum bag. Because if it's a trend, people will want it. And especially if your brand, who they like, has made a bum bag or whatever, like then they want to rep you. But stealing designs is just fucking weak. It's so fucking weak.
I'm yawning.
So just I would much rather see a design that maybe to a graphic designer's eye is shit, but to my eye is cool, that somebody has genuinely come up with and they've drawn it in hand and they've pulled it into Illustrator and they've blah blah blah. Like
something very unique.
Because also if you're a creative, like Joe from Rough Cut and everything, like he's a creative. Like you want to kind of Jack. Wait. Yeah, sorry, no, I'm thinking Joe because Joe's also involved.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking Joe Alvey, sorry. But you're kind of buying their stuff. It's a celebration of like the creativity. So taking someone else's creativity and copying and pasting it and making your own logo into it.
And now if the customers bought that, then they're going to feel a bit like, oh, I've just bought something that's not the real thing almost. I'm now supporting someone who doesn't.
Like if we made a Street Parrots red and white BOGO in the same text as Supreme. I mean, there was a little bit of this a few years ago where kind of you were getting like almost parody branding, and that was interesting because like Farang even did a play on it in a really tasteful manner. Like it wasn't copying, but in the Chanel No. 5 thing. And this was this period of like kind of parody branding, and you were seeing these brands making like a kind of their own version of a BOGO and things, and that was a trend, and that came and went.
Sorry, I'm crashing after the
coffee's killing you. Yeah,
it's killing me.
Yeah, this is a long one.
No, but it's good. I think this is probably one of the most important.
I feel like there's a lot of things people can learn from this, and I think I'm so far from an expert, and I'm learning every day. Like especially transitioning to this new factory, who are killing it. Like I'm just learning so many things about the industry that I never knew, and I didn't go to design school or clothing design school or anything. But it's so yeah. I'm not an expert, and I'm not saying this is like the sort of the Bible or whatever, like, but it's stuff I've picked up along the way.
But if you've got this far in the podcast and you have no intention to make a brand whatsoever, then that's sick. Like now you know more.
I mean, maybe it might fucking inspire people. People might be like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like you
I didn't want to build a brand, but now this sounds easy.
Yeah, or just now this sounds like, oh, this sounds fun. Like I don't have, because some people go home and they don't have anything to do after their day's training or their day at school. They come home and they're like, like I could just rest, but like I don't really know what I'm doing, because I've had it.
Yeah.
And then like you've given me tasks to do and shit, and I'm like, oh, actually this is so much more fun because now I can see like an end game.
Well, it gives you a purpose, I think. Like
yeah, that's the thing. You just need a purpose, and to start a brand is like such a good thing to do.
And even like if you just don't feel like you could be, you know what we need fucking more of in parkour is more designers. Like if there were more people who were actively like pumping out like, oh, I'm a designer, or I'm trying to be a designer, and they were just putting out graphics, and maybe they're like, I don't want to do the business, I don't want to do the numbers, I just love drawing, and I like being given briefs, and so I could go, cool, I want my parrot to look like this, and I want my parrot to have a fucking axe in his paw, not his paw, his hand, like my parrot looks like this, and then this guy can take this and make it into the sickest design. Like then we need more of that. So you don't have to just be thinking like, I want to build a clothing brand. Like look at the industry that is parkour and think, how could I be an asset to this?
Yes.
But just to touch on factories, like factories are fucking hard to find, and they're fucking hard to find a reliable one. Alibaba is where everyone will point you, and it's a minefield of yes men.
Alibaba,
it's a website that's run out of China, and it's what is it? It's a directory of millions of factories and companies who produce stuff. So you could go on there and say, I want to make fake Yeezys, and people will go, cool, we can make fake Yeezys. But the
Oh,
problem
really?
is, what you do is you go on and you fill out like kind of what you're looking for, and you sign up for an account and you say, I want to make clothing, blah 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 blah, and you'll get a billion factories will message you and go, we can do this, and you go, cool. I want to make everything out of lycra mixed with polyester. Can you do that? And they go, yes. And you go, cool. Like, let's start let's go into sampling. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that fabric. And you're like, why the fuck did you say you can? Like, it's chaos. Like, it's so hard to find a reliable one. I have been fortunate in the sense that I've sort of people have pointed me in the right directions, and it's a really weird space, the factory thing, because I think it's so hard to find one that's reliable that then people keep them close to their chest. Like, if you message me on Instagram and say, what's your factory that you're using at the moment? I'd be like, well, why? Like, it's weird. Like, why shouldn't I give my factory away? But then if you ask anyone, like, what their factory is, it's a really strange thing.
It is a really strange thing, and it does sound a bit weird to hold back on it.
Yeah.
But personally, I wouldn't want people to, like, know, like, loads of people to know where we're...
I mean, I'm...
Because it's kind of like and this sounds bad as well, but we've been through all the effort to get up to this stage.
And technically, it's like, well, maybe we should use this platform to then provide that to everyone else. But
yeah,
I think it's not something I'm objected to in the future. I think for now, I'm like, I think because everyone else does, I'm like, well, why should I? But maybe, I think my worry would be like, well, I don't want my connection who works at the company who kind of handles all my stuff to like be swamped. Like, I wouldn't want her being like, oh, sorry, I'm dealing with this other company. Like, I'm working with Breach at the moment. I'm gonna get back to you in a couple of days. I'd be like, fuck, man.
I've just like fucked it
I'm
up.
waiting on an order here.
You have got to think about yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're always gonna have to do that at the end of the day. But yeah.
But I mean, so Chinese factories out in not Chinese, like a lot of the factories you will find on Alibaba that predominantly are based in China. Some of them can be amazing. So I've had some product made, like some of our bags and stuff were actually really good quality, but then other stuff, they will fuck you at every single turn. Like, you'll be dealing with somebody who will not actually be part of a factory. They'll be an agent, and they'll just have a directory of factories, and you'll email them and you'll get broken English responses, and you'll be like, cool, I want to make t-shirts, blah blah blah. They'll give you a price and everything, and I mean, I've literally had it where we made, and this is the thing about working with factories, it's expensive because you're ordering in higher quantities, there's longer delays, longer wait times, you got to deal with import and everything else like this, and you get mistakes. And I mean, I've had jumpers where I've okayed the fabric on the final sample and I've gone, this is perfect, great fabric, like stretchy, doesn't shrink in the wash, everything like this. And then because on the final thing I didn't say don't change the fabric, they changed the fabric.
I remember,
and they changed the fabric.
That was happening a lot.
The green jumpers and then I got them and they all shrunk in the wash. And I have the stock and I can't send it back. They refuse to do it. Like they're like, no, sorry, not our problem, because I didn't say don't change it. So now it got to the stage where, like, on final kind of sign-offs, I was literally going, don't do this, don't change the fabric, don't do this. And this is probably I'm sure there are much better factories that you can be dealing with. Like, I know Stora were producing a load of stuff in China, and I think their quality was much better than what we were putting out. But it's so stressful. We had jackets, some of the ATO jackets came and the sleeves were all out of proportion. I had to pay a seamstress in the UK $2,000 to fix them. That's not $2,000 that was written into my budget.
No.
Like,
did she do just you give them her loads and
I
she
carry them up there in bin bags and she did them in hand over a couple of months.
Bloody hell.
And it was insane.
For her, that must have been.
Oh, she hated me. She took it on and was like, yeah, I can do this. And then, like, weeks in.
She's like, oh.
So this is the thing. You get these mistakes. And yeah. And I mean, technically, it's like, well, why would you sell jackets why would you sell a jumper that shrinks in the wash? It's like, well, I can either sell it and stick labels all over it saying, like, wash on cold, because it only shrunk when it was hot, and, like, do all this. And some people just whack it in at 60 and they're like, it shrunk. And I'm like, for fuck's sake. Like, and then you feel obligated to kind of give them a refund or whatever, but it's hard. And this is the thing. Building a brand, you'll get complaints. You'll get stuff. And at the end of the day, unless you're keeping that customer happy, like, one bad person just blasting over Instagram that you're a shit brand and you're putting out shit clothing.
That's enough.
It's far more damaging than somebody sharing it and going, like, oh, this is nice. Like, this is cool. So you've got to really treat your customer well. And you see it where some people, I don't think I've seen it necessarily in parkour, but you see where people sort of treat customers negatively and it backfires so savagely. Because at the end of the day, without the customer, you're nothing. Like, and this is another point, is like, cash is king. Like, you need to be on top of your financials. You need to always be thinking financially, because I mean, it's sort of, I try to have some form of like kind of safety net financially, but things like needing $2,000 to pay out to fix jackets that you simply just had not factored in, because that should not have been a mistake in the first place, and it was a mistake. Like, it's savage. It's really, really savage, unless you're sort of prepared for some form of like massive fuck up. Like, I now in my profit and loss, I have a line that is MFU, and it's the massive fuck up. And it's like you every month there's money getting put aside in case something goes wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's like you have to be thinking that way.
Yeah.
So be careful with factories, but also it's something that as you scale and as you want to be putting out better quality, like if you want to be the luxury brand of parkour, then you're going to have to start factories from day one. You can't print on Gildan and say you're luxury. Like, it's a lie. And that's another thing. You can't be dishonest with your customer. Like, you can't sell them a lie or say you did something and it's not the truth, because if it does come out, it's so damaging. So what else have we got? I mean, that's kind of...
I feel like you covered a lot. It's really hard to do it in order because it's like everything kind of links together.
Exactly, and it all changes. And I mean, at the bottom here, I've just got like, be prepared for growth and change. Like, things will...
And exactly that change, where you said growth and change, that change could be something that it feels like you should have done at the start, or you're changing something that has been set in place from the start. So that's why it kind of goes in a loop when you talk about it, because it's like, oh no, now I need to go back a few years pretty much and change this so that this works.
Well, exactly. Like, I mean, a prime example is like when Motus started, I was packing and fulfilling orders myself, and I was driving them up to the post office and posting there. And now, like, we use a completely different postage service. Like, I don't pack the orders, like, and all of these things, when this thing changed, like, I had to sit down for a day or so and like set it all back up again and get it all running. And then stuff changes. Like, at the start of this year, we finally managed to implement tracked postage, which was basically the result of me sitting down for a couple of days and saying, like, I'm going to get my head around this and do it. And I wish I'd done it sooner, because the amount of parcels that go missing, or the amount of people who say, where's, like, I want to pay for tracking and things. And hindsight's a bitch. Like, and this is almost, there's so much hindsight in this, because you, like, even like the essentials, like, you release the essentials, they sell crazy because people want to rep Motus. And I'm like, fuck, imagine if I'd done that a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, financially, we could have had different things. And yeah, I mean, you've got to be prepared for shit to hit the fan. You've got to be prepared for things to change. Like, even if you are so confident within a design, and even if you try your hardest at selling it, if the audience doesn't like it, it's not going to move. And then you've got to adapt to that. And you've got to kind of accept that. And it's hard. If you are a creative and you've put effort into something and you've designed it, and you're like, I love this Street Parrot logo, and then they don't like it, you're like, oh. I mean, maybe you need to try marketing different. It doesn't mean the design is shit. Maybe you just need to market it differently. But I think, yeah, and then from there, it's just growth and scale and sort of, it's being smart with the money and reinvesting it in the right places and trying new products. And the most fun thing about parkour clothing at the moment is the progression and the fact that, like, we can do stuff that has never been done before because it hasn't, within the parkour space, because it hasn't been done before. Like, we were doing a product this summer for Soul Destroyer that we're doing 3 colorways of, and to my knowledge, that item has never been produced before. And we've been,
that's sick.
And I'm fucking excited for it, and I'm terrified at the same time, because if it doesn't sell, I've got a lot of them. And I personally think they're really cool, and like,
I really like them.
I mean, I won't go into too much detail, but we've designed a print that is completely I mean, Soul Destroyer is obviously,
it's completely custom, that no one could have exactly made, could they?
Yeah, which I think can be said for a lot of prints, it's more that Soul Destroyer is obviously made, the concept is sort of, it's the soul destroying, like, of your shoes. It's not your soul. And from that, we've been trying to think about this, and it's like, well, you're always trashing your shoes and things. Like, we don't have boards to wreck or anything like this. Like, you're trashing your shoes. And what happens every time you do an arm jump or something against a wall? Like, a lot of the times you leave these, like, smeared impact marks. And I think it was Max initially came up with the idea, maybe, and we developed this thing that we've now called the Impact Print. And you'll get a teaser of this on the new essentials that are coming out in a couple of weeks. You'll get a teaser where we've kind of taken an element of this print and, like, implemented it, and it's basically a big fucking smear it's like.
It will be hard. You can't look at it and be like, I know exactly what that is.
But that's what I like, because I don't want somebody on the street to go like, oh, that's a footprint. But it's like, for us, we know that is, and we've developed this pattern out of this. And fuck it, I don't even care. We're making, what are they? They're button up.
It's really hard to.
It's a shirt. We're making the equivalent of not a Hawaiian shirt, because that sounds fucking crazy floral.
No.
But we are making a shirt that is it's button up, short sleeve. It's a summer shirt that you can wear over the top of a t-shirt or over the top of nothing while training, and it is covered in this impact print across 3 different colorways. Some are more subtle, some are more bold, and personally, I fucking love it.
And it's gonna, like, so far the material that it is.
Fabrics and everything is
it's
beautiful, like fucking soft, stretchy, like.
Yeah.
But it's this print from a distance just looks like a pattern shirt, the type of thing you could buy from Top Man or fucking whatever. Like, it just looks like a pattern shirt, but it's got this deeper meaning that it is. I mean, I literally painted shoes and I went down to my dad's workshop where he works, and I put up this big wall of, like, this big board on the wall, and I filmed this entire process, so this will come out at some stage, and put up this big white board, and I painted my shoes black with different types of paint. I tried ink, I tried fucking, like, normal paint, I tried some, like, sticky tar shit, and I jumped against walls, like doing arm jumps, like fucking 100 times, and I took photos of all of these different prints that I was leaving, and then we took some of the best ones, and we then, like, vectorized them and took out the background and things, and we've turned this thing into a print, and I fucking love it. And I'm terrified, because if it doesn't sell, then it's like, it's like all this passion, all this energy has gone into something, and then you could just go and rip off another brand and make a design, but that's kind of, I think, why the stealing thing annoys me so much.
Don't rip us off, please.
Well, if somebody rips us off, it's
someone
like,
wouldn't be able to do that in a fast enough time. Really.
Yeah, exactly. No one can do, because the essentials, and then we'll have a lookbook for Soul Destroyer soonish. But that's why this is so exciting, because the creative process behind it, and the fact that it's like, well, no one's done a short sleeve summer shirt yet. No one's really played around with, like, crazy patterns. Like, I mean, people have done logo patterns and stuff. I know Normal Brand and Farang have played around a little bit, but, like, it feels so progressive. The thing, I always link this sport, like, everything in this sport is progressive, like the movement and styles and things. And it's like, well, we can take that and we can put that onto the fashion side. And it's like, well, has someone done fucking parkour jewelry yet? Like, there's all these... To be
honest, if someone did and it was, like, actually legit,
like sick chains and stuff,
and it's like, I'd be
you don't,
into
and
it.
you don't have to sell it like, oh, this is good for parkour. It's like, I'm obsessed with parkour. My name's Joe, but I love making jewelry, and this is my brand. Yeah. Like, if you like wearing chains, if somebody gave you a nice chain and you just knew it was from someone in the parkour community compared to someone outside of it,
and cared about parkour, and I'd be like, it still represents parkour.
Exactly.
I mean, then just wearing some, like, chain that I really don't have a clue.
It's about growth and support within the industry.
Yeah.
And that's, I can't remember where I was going with it. It's just, that's why I love this clothing side of things. Like, it's, I love making films, but I struggle to sell myself. And I think at the end of the day, I just like creating, and I like progressing, and I like trying different things, and I like kind of pushing different things, and it's really fucking fun. Like, it's really fun. And right now there's so much room for it. So it's like, if you have an idea for something and you think no one else is doing it, then, like, get involved.
TK is still only a teenager, pretty much.
It's parkour. Sick. It's so sick.
It's not massively big, so it's impossible to start a company. Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing.
It's still easy to get heard if you shout loud enough without
sort of making a
without
dick of
bleeding
yourself.
Someone's ears. Like,
yeah. Like, I mean, it's a billion times harder to become a big name in skateboarding in terms of, like, building a brand. And people still manage it. It's not impossible.
Oh, they do. It's just difficult, and there's obviously core brands that are dying in that sport. Just because there's obviously things that we can learn from other sports that they've done wrong and right. You know?
Yeah. It's growth and change, and at the end of the day, it's happiness. Like, if you got into this thing at the start just to make money, and you've had a bit of success, and you've realized you're not actually making as much money as you'd like, and you're not happy, then don't fucking do it. Like, this is not for everyone. It simply isn't. Like, maybe you just love parkour and you're so inspired by this shit, and you love the fashion, you like wearing it, but you love working in an office and doing your analyst job or whatever, because it earns a solid wage and it keeps you and your family safe and happy. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, just for me, it's like, I can't do anything that isn't involved with parkour anymore. Like, it's a death sentence for me if I move away from this sport. So that's the only space I can kind of work within. So if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, then don't feel like you have to. And if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. I think is the key thing, because happiness it'll fucking destroy you. And also, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like, building this brand has been so much harder than I could have ever imagined, and so much harder than like me trying to sell myself as a filmmaker. Not because it's hard to sell clothes, but because it's just fucking hard. It's so hard.
But if this isn't for you, and you are just a customer, if you are just going to continue doing parkour, and just think twice if a new collection comes out from Farang, from Star, from Motus, from any
or smaller brand, anyone
or smaller brands. Just think twice about like what they're putting out, because I don't buy a lot of clothes. I don't spend a lot of money, and I'm sure there's loads of people in the parkour community that don't spend money, but just look past just sort of the clothes. It doesn't make sense if I say it like that. Like Giles was saying about
it's the value.
Print. Yeah, it's the value, and you want to be essentially helping the brand grow. If you're buying a t-shirt, you've helped out just that little bit, because the customer, without the customer, like, the brand is nothing anyway. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we drop our stuff, if every single person who listens to this podcast, which is currently 15,000 billion people,
all of you should buy it.
It's not actually that many.
No, it is.
It's only 14,000, but
okay, 14,000 billion.
Yeah, 14,000 billion. But yeah, no, I mean, it fucking any support is appreciated. We love the messages. We love the stuff. I'm so shit on Instagram because I read and I give people like, oh, thank you, means a lot. And then they send me like a really long message, and I just
I'm not.
I have serious issues dealing with compliments. Like, I can't. I'm very bad at taking them on. Like, I take them on board, but I'm very bad at thinking like, oh, I'm deserving of this praise. But any,
I get it.
Yeah, it's but any support of the brand or anyone else's brand, like, if you love something, support it, because you can help it grow. So, like, I mean, last week, I'm the reason Arcane Roots broke up. So that's heartbreaking.
I mean, you're not, but
like,
it's a conspiracy theory.
You don't want to be the reason Storm Free Run or Motus or Farang or Storm or whatever.
You might be really high up in fashion, and you're like, I don't want anyone to find Motus.
The buyer of Selfridges is like the biggest fan of Farang, and he's just like, well, I don't want to like pop them off yet, and then Farang like has to close down or something
because they don't make enough sales, and like, no,
they
could have been so big.
Yeah,
I could have bought so many of their clothes and helped them grow. And
so anyway, this is an hour and 43 minutes of podcast.
Hell.
Although I did go for a wee in the middle, which I'm going to cut out. So are we going in with a music minute?
Yeah. Who started last time? Do you want me to start this time?
You can start this time. I think I did. But we didn't use jingles at the start of this one because we did ask for very bad jingles, but we did kind of then realise that if any people who aren't into parkour or don't know, like, let's say 20 episodes down, they don't know that we asked for bad jingles, they might listen to the bad jingles and be like, this is fucking awful. So anyone who's a producer wants to put together something a bit funky or whatever, and if they actually want some like voiceover from us to intro it, we can do that. And also maybe a music minute intro could be cool.
That would be really cool.
With
music minute. That'd be so cool.
with the echo, yeah. And I'm not complaining about the artwork at the moment. We had someone send in a fucking crazy photo of you and me, like, all edited.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they meant it as a joke or they meant it seriously. It was fucking cool. It was well done, but also I looked like I was a human turd. So I'm not going to stick it on iTunes. But let's head into this. You're going to hit the 30-second mark?
Yeah, let's hit the 30-second mark.
All right, you got 15 seconds. So if anyone isn't into Music Minute, it is a solid minute from each of us talking about an artist who we are currently passionate about or want to share with the world. And so far, it's been received really well. All right, you got 4 seconds.
3, 2, 1. So I'm going to talk about Grandaddy, and I've only listened to one album by Grandaddy, and my daddy, my dad showed me Grandaddy, and very similar to the Flaming Lips. Basically, in this album, they talk about, it was made in 2000. 2000. Wow, 2000? Do you call it like that? I'm going to ruin this.
The year 2000.
The year 2000, and it's all about how technology will not destroy us, but it will not help with the everyday problems that we have right now. The fear is that we're building all these computers and stuff, but it's not going to help us with the most simplest of problems. And even the first song, it's about a man called 2000 Man who has flown away from the planet because he can't deal with the change in technology. And it's all about everyone trying to get him back down to earth to like sort these problems out, and eventually they just get angry with him and they're not his friend anymore. It's really complicated, but it's a really good listen, and I think you should all listen to it. There you go.
You listen to some fucking crazy
It's
music.
sick. I love it.
Wait, who was that?
Granddaddy. It's called The Software
Granddaddy.
Slump.
And is that lyrically you can hear all the stuff about the
Yeah,
2000
it's the
men?
first song. It's called He's Simple, He's Dumb, He's the Pilot.
Wow.
And it is cool. That's because like I always listen to it.
What style of music is it?
It's kind of like, it's not this stuff that I've explained before. It's the whole album is quite sad, really. But it's like, it's actually really nice to listen to.
Interesting.
But no, I thought he meant like 2,000 men, like 2,000 men. So I had to look it up.
I did catch Keelan looking.
Shit.
He was looking at lyrics and researching earlier.
Yeah.
'cause-
Because I looked it up beforehand, but I was just like making sure I got it right. But it's hard to tell unless you look that up. And
yeah.
It's a very repetitive song and sounds a bit cheesy, but anyway, I went over a minute. But
No, you didn't. That was a minute. I mean, you were just talking then, but that's fine.
Yeah. Right.
I'm gonna go in with a bit of a curveball, I reckon, but I'll wait. I'll hit the 30
I'm
second
shaking
mark.
because I've got no porridge in me. Coffee.
All right, so I'm going to talk about, this is a complete curveball. Everything I've spoken about so far has been some form of like heavy metal music. So anyone who's been loving that music, and I've had a lot of responses, check out Cosmo Sheldrake, especially the first song. Actually, I think it's called Come Along. This guy is just totally fucking, it sounds like you are walking through some Disney dreamscape on LSD, and you're surrounded by like happy animals that are all coming and tweets, like birds landing on your fingers. Cosmo Sheldrake, the album I've been listening to is called The Much How and I, and it's just fucking, it's my happy music. Like, I sent it to Keelan a while ago and he was like, you don't listen to this, you only listen to heavy music. I was like, I love this shit. It's so positive and uplifting and weirdly quirky. I can't even describe it. Like, it's like bum ba da dum da 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 dum da dum da da. It's so sick. Like, it's not the type of thing you probably want to listen to every day, but fuck me, like the right mood, the right weather. Beautiful. Cosmo Sheldrake, check it out.
I like that. But yeah, when you did send me that, I thought something was wrong.
And actually, there's
I
one
was like,
song.
Oh my gosh, Giles, like when I meet up with you, are you going to be completely different? I don't know how, like...
I think it's the song Come Along, and it has this like really big, like grand intro, and it's like, and it sounds really tense, and you're like, oh shit. And it, knowing my music taste, you're like, oh, this could get heavy. And then it suddenly like just switches up into absolute positivity. So, and I mean, lyrics are fucking mental as well.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah.
I need to actually give it a listen because...
It's so good. He does a song as well. He, I read about him a while ago. He spent a lot of time with like, in like New Orleans, listening to the kind of the brass and like funk scenes and things out there. He's got this song with this like New Orleans brass band for like 3 minutes. He's basically freestyling.
Oh,
and
really?
It sounds mental, just like
yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's so sick.
But
he does a
sounds
video.
like they're having a lot of fun.
Oh
Obviously.
yeah, he does a video where he like rents a hot air balloon and like plays a song from like a hot air balloon floating through the air.
Oh my god,
it's really cool.
Yeah, I need to. What's the album called that you're listening to, or is it not an album?
It's called The Much How and I.
Sick.
It's your kind of thing.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
do need to. I mean, it's good that you're into the heavy shit, but it's. I don't like it when people are only listen to. Do you know what I mean?
If it's not metal, I don't like it.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you've got to be open to all ends of the I don't know.
spectrum.
Yeah, you
Within
don't
reason,
have to, but
not
just,
including house music.
I think
basically.
at least just listen to a few songs to make sure that you're not just upset inside, and that's all.
Yeah. The only time I can listen to house music is when with Phil Doyle and he's just blasting it on a speaker and like pumping around a room and he's
because
loving
he's
it.
given the vibe as well.
Yeah, Phil
If he's
Doyle
not
is
there,
the
then
vibe
he's
of house
like-
music, but without
Yeah.
that, I'm just like, no, I can't do this.
I know. Yeah.
Well, this has been an almost 2 hour long podcast, so I feel like we should wrap it up
Now we
fairly quickly.
should
We've got to eat some
indeed.
dinner and probably let my dog out.
I am shaking. I need food, and
Keelan's had.
should we have another coffee?
I don't need another
I was
coffee.
kidding.
That
I
would
wouldn't be able to.
ruin me. But yeah, I mean, I really hope this has been of some kind of value to you. I mean, I could talk about a lot of this stuff for longer, and if anyone has like proper questions related to this, then hit me up on Instagram or something.
And if you don't, hit me up and we can chat. Probably won't reply.
Yeah, hit me up about the clothing side of things. Hit Keelan up about just fish.
Life and shit.
Fish. Now that he's vegan, he doesn't even eat fish. But
I miss it.
yeah, poor Keelan. I took him to the shop earlier to get pizza, and then realised he can't eat cheese. I was like, oh, I was like,
that
this.
there'd be vegan pizza.
I was like,
there.
this shop has great pizza selection, and I like pulled out this big cheesy one, and I was like, yeah, this is mine, and he was like, yeah, I'm vegan, aren't I? I was like, oh fuck.
It's alright.
But no, yeah, thank you for all the support so far. Like I said at the end of the last one, please share, support, like on iTunes, review, 5 stars, that kind of thing.
Everything, please.
It all helps. And yeah, I hope it's helped.
Cracking.
I hope it's helped you. And it'll be really cool to see where parkour is in like 5 years' time, and hopefully there is like a jeweler who does parkour jewelry.
I'd like that.
Doesn't have to be parkour jewelry, just jewelry.
I just like every different theme. It's not a theme.
Yeah,
to be hit, pretty much.
Exactly.
So we have a good.
It's
solid
all about
parkour
building
community,
the industry and saying like oh, you guys are all just like skates. Sort of, I don't know. Somebody looks at parkour and they're like, oh, you guys are all just making t-shirts. It's like, no, we got like a fucking. There's a company in France that just focuses on shoe repair of classic parkour shoes and preserving them so that we can all carry on training.
That'd be so sick.
Like Kalenji Success and things, and they're like, yeah, I mean, there's so much room for little niches if that's your passion, and if that is your passion, then fucking do it, because that will keep you happy. You don't want to do something that's not your passion at the end of the day. So,
should we revamp the Icon hoodie then? Would that be hard to do? Because I'd love to.
No, it'd be very, very. I mean, it'd be expensive because we'd have to order a large minimum. I'd love to. Like, I think that's a prime example of a thing that I wish we had marketed. I guess I wish I had marketed it more and driven home the fact that like, oh, these icons actually represent something.
If we ever do another sort of London-based thing, then
maybe bring it back.
Bring it back.
Yeah,
I do miss those.
But yeah, we got stuff coming out, and I mean we're hitting that spring-summer time coming up. Fuck, we didn't even talk about trying to release in terms of seasons and things, but that's a whole nother conversation. But there's going to be other brands dropping stuff soon. I've seen Stora repping some new stuff, so if they check that out. I think Storm are working on some stuff. Farang, I'm sure will be bringing it out, and that's just naming the kind of the big boys. So try and, like we said, just
check
support.
out Rough Cut as well.
Yeah, we'll put Rough Cut in the description. If I forget, I do apologise, but is it just Rough Cut on Instagram?
It's just at @rough_cut, I think.
Yeah,
but you'll find it.
If I forget,
quite easy to find.
Well, then it's there, and I'm sorry if I don't. But wicked, thank you very much, people. Love you lots.
Goodbye. Fucking stop the recording. 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 Fucking stop the recording.